Last but not least, the final video that has the more challenging questions that I will answer. We're just going to jump right into this motherfucker. 4 questions from DJ Scribbles, and he wants to know what I think about cutting and self-inflicting harm. It's a cry for help. I mean, it means there's something mentally and or emotionally wrong with someone who needs professional help for what is most likely a deep depression. I can't think of any reason someone would purposely hurt or mutilate themselves other than a plea for help or an attempt at suicide. You know, it's not something a perfectly balanced person would do or consider, and those who know of someone doing this or who have feelings of themselves should seek immediate professional care before either you or your friend truly hurt yourself. Do you think college is important or getting higher than an associate's? Well, it depends on who you're relating the importance to. Look, the difference in an associate's degree from a local school to a 4-year prestigious university in terms of the student is minimal. It's not like spending 2 years in school is going to make you any smarter or prepare you any more for the workforce. Same as just with getting a high school degree. The piece of paper you get to show your education doesn't mean the person is any smarter or learn more in a classroom at a university. It just means they spent more time in school listening to professors. And a good portion of those professors have never set foot in a workplace outside of a classroom. The difference in a degree is what businesses see, what recruiters see when they evaluate talent just coming out of school. There is no question that seeing a 4-year degree from Harvard or Yale carries more weight with companies than a 2-year degree from Billy Bob's School of Midget Tossing. But the reality is that just because someone went to Harvard, it doesn't mean they're any smarter or more prepared for the workforce than the person with an associate. But businesses will assume that the bachelor's degree student is smarter. They will assume a bachelor's degree prepared him for the workforce and that he has the intelligence to last in a business. Reality is, your life experience is what prepares you for the job market. Did your parents teach you the finer lessons in life? Did you go to advanced learning schools because you were smart or because you could afford it? Did you take internships at companies that gave you legitimate work experience to learn? Or did you loaf around and do nothing on your ass and not take the initiative to get into the work environment? 10 years down the road, 20, 25, 30, nobody will give a fuck about your degree. They'll care more about your career experience. The only impact your degree has is in the immediate years after you leave school. Harvard, Stanford, MIT, they're going to open up more doors for someone than an associate's degree will. However, that doesn't mean a 4-year degree person is any better of an employee or a harder worker than a 2-year person. On paper, businesses will favor the 4-year degree, but the reality is, after both kids graduate from school, the only thing that truly separates them is how much of their other life factors have prepared them for after graduation. Number 3, if you could fix or cure anything in the world right now, what would it be and why? This is actually going to tie into the final question I plan on answering in all the videos, and I promise you guys that this answer is going to be another one that completely shocks you. So I want to hold off on this answer until the final question, but I will come back to this one a little bit later. And number 4, what is up with society today? And he lists some examples that seem to slant towards women for some reason. Now, each topic you mention here has nothing to do with each other, and they're geared towards the double standards that women face. Now, first of all, let's get this shit straight. It's much harder being a woman in today's society than a guy. This is not even debatable. From pay scale differences to laws to religious views, women are always seen as the inferior gender. Men are always the ones who put women through these issues. We paint pictures of what the perfect woman should look like, porn stars, playmates, models, and when a woman doesn't meet these expectations, then it's their fault. No, it's not. It's men's fault for putting that expectation on women to meet these superior standards. Women are not treated as equals, not in the least bit of capacity. Hence, when they do have advantages over men, such as being able to slap us, such as being able to manipulate stupid men into giving them money, men can't bitch. Now listen, not all women are like this, and not all men are assholes, but considering the shit that men have put women through, you can't blame them in the least for trying to equal out the inequalities by using their advantages over men. Are there some trifling women who are only using men for money? Sure. Are there women whose only goal is to make a man miserable? Absolutely. But for every asshole woman, you can count 1,000 or more asshole men who abuse women, rape women, behead them in third world countries, mutilate them. So if you think life is unfair towards women, you need to rethink and walk a mile in their shoes. Walk a mile in high heels, as a matter of fact. And then see how society is to them from their point of view. My gaming is legal has 4 questions, and I wonder what the fuck makes his gaming legal. First question is, what is the meaning of life? And this also is going to tie into the final question that I'm going to answer. So I'm going to hold off answering on this one as well because, again, the final answer is going to be something people want to hear. Number 2, why do you think and explain how bad 100% unfiltered greed has affected us, worthless piece of shit humans, how bad it affected the game industry, healthcare, blah, 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 and all that other good shit. Now, you mentioned a number of industries, but greed doesn't just affect companies. Greed also affects individuals. Greed is universal. And it's not something that just companies do. As long as people want more than they can have, they will do it at the expense of others. Greed is a part of our society. You know, companies become greedy when they start taking advantage of their customers' trust. Instead of giving a customer a quality product, they throw out anything in hopes that people will buy it. They assume that a loyal customer will just give them money because of their name brand. You know, things like Call of Duty, the iPhones, or movie sequels like this fucking Fast and the Furious 10 or whatever the fuck they're up to, or the Lord of the Rings, Pimping Out the Hobbit. They're not concerned with making something great as opposed to making something people will buy in volume. When companies abuse consumer trust for the sake of money, that's when you force them to stop buying products. Now, personal greed is usually the result of someone not knowing how to manage their money. They want something they can't afford, or they go out of their way to screw over anyone in order to get what they want. Some examples are people buying houses way over the budget that they want, or buying a second car knowing that you could barely afford your first fucking car. You know, any kind of greed is tied to money. And usually, it's going to end up with the company or person in a worse position than they were before when their greed finally kicks in. Number 3, and you asked a shitload of questions here, motherfucker. This is like 3 questions wrapped into one question, but the original premise is, what do you think about male and female relationships in the future? Now, in here, you talk about respect to the human body, and that alone is a debatable topic. You talk about taboos, which for the most part vary from place to place and person to person. But we're going to keep this simple, since the point is to only ask one question. It's also very similar to the prior question I just answered from DJ Scribbles. Now, your original question of relationships is going to be dictated by how far away from historical teaching society gets. You know, let's be honest. From biblical teachings, religious teachings, and more, women are supposed to be inferior to men. In almost every historical and religious teaching, women were never meant to be treated as equals. Those who continue to support that will always consider women to be the inferior gender. People who reject that notion, men and women, will have relationships that see partners as equals and allow women to make their own choices and do whatever they want to do with their own bodies. Fact is, men have tried to control women and their sexuality for centuries. But now that we live in a society where women are more comfortable and able to take control of their decisions, you get away from things that people consider taboo. In the future, I expect more women will come to the realization that they are and deserve to be treated as equals to men, and their sexuality is theirs to determine, not any single man's decision. I see relationships being more open and fair as opposed to the historically unequal way they were treated before. Final question. With technology improving, is that really an improvement or one of the biggest nutshot cons that has ever hit humanity? In one of the videos, you actually mentioned the whole point of people doing dumb shit on smartphones. You know, motherfucker, when I say 4 questions, that means 4 questions and not wrap a shitload of questions into one number. So the premise of this question comes down to whether technology improves life or not. All inventions humans have ever made were to make life easier, and technology is a big reason we're able to do things faster, quicker, and more efficiently than before. Small inventions that help our basic life needs, you know, like a pressure cooker in the kitchen to cook shit quicker, or a computer at work, allow us the ability to do things faster than before with these things that were invented. Technology has come so far that our lives have been made so easy that in our spare time, we needed to create things to entertain ourselves. The problem is that we become so dependent on technology for everything. Everyday life now depends on the devices we created. And it's at the point that people can't even function without their technology. I mean, people need their phones, laptops, tablets, PC, etc. just to be able to get by any single day. And if you don't believe me, I dare anyone here listening to take all your electronic devices, your TV, your computer, your phones, especially your fucking phones, and don't use them for a full week. 1 full week away from technology at home. I'm not talking about going on a camping trip in the middle of fucking nowhere with no technology. No. I'm talking 1 week at home. See how far you get. See how crazy that would make you without technology. I will guarantee that most people here couldn't do it. Most people here would cringe at the idea of losing their phones alone for a week. Oh, can you imagine the reaction of teenagers if you took their phones away? You know, these assholes sit right next to each other on the bus or on the train or some shit, and instead of talking to each other, they will text each other. That's how fucking addicted we are to technology. Technology has replaced basic conversation. Technology has replaced knowledge in that people won't even go to the library anymore. We have Google now. Technology has replaced activities like sports, where you don't even need to play in a little league or a school team anymore. You can just go out and buy EA Sports and call it a day. Technology has replaced talent. No longer do you have to be able to sing or have to have the looks to be a model. Now we have fucking auto-tune to allow singers to make a song, or we have Photoshop to allow someone to be a model. There is no question technology has made our lives easier, but it's also become our addiction. We need it to perform our most basic life needs, and we can't live without it because it entertains us. Humans have conditioned ourselves to need technology to survive, as opposed to means to merely assisting us in life. That is the problem that we have with technology today. We've become addicted to it. Final questions, and these come from Hurley is the man. He even prefaces his questions about controversial topics. First question, do I consider myself an online bully when I reply back to trolls in my videos? Now, you have to look at the dictionary definition of what bullying is to begin with. It's any method of intentionally and persistently targeting physical, verbal, emotional, or cyber harassment of someone unprovoked for the sole purpose to intimidate and abuse someone. In most cases, the bully targets someone who they consider weaker than them, someone who they can intimidate and harass into misery for the sole purpose of who they are. That description pretty much describes what trolls do. Whether they come to your channel to annoy you, mock you, piss you off, or actually harass you, trolling is nothing more than a form of online bullying. It's usually unprovoked and in some cases specifically directed at someone for a reason. That alone is what separates me from trolls and bullies. I don't purposely target people. I don't go to people's channel to piss them off. I have no desire to visit a channel just to piss in their Wheaties for a day. Without any intention and provocation, what I do isn't defined as bullying. What I do is old school. In the old days, people were taught that the best way to deal with a bully was to stand up to them, was to defend yourself and show that their tactics won't work against you. And that's what I do on my channel. Trolls come and go, and they do so for various reasons. Some come in to make one comment, leave and never return. Some come here specifically targeting me and hoping and pissing me off. But as I said plenty of times, that shit has no effect on me. That shit actually fuels me to get under their skin. See, the way you beat a bully isn't always physically. It's psychologically and emotionally. When you show that your willpower and resolve is stronger than theirs, they have nothing left to do but tuck in those pussy lips and crawl away. When you stand up to a bully or troll and show that you have a stronger resolve than they do, they will always break down and run away. That's why I argue back. It's not about what they say. It's about the psychological effects of breaking someone's willpower because you're mentally stronger than them. That's why every troll on my channel eventually gives up, because my resolve and my attitude is much stronger than their fragile egos and psyche. That's what separates me from them. I don't attack someone unprovoked. I only go after jackasses who try to provoke me. I defend myself, I defend my channel, my subscribers from trolls who are essentially bullies by definition. It's like tugging on Superman's cape or kicking the Hulk in the ass. If you fuck with the bull, you're gonna get the horns. Number 2, you once joked about running for president of the United States. What would be your biggest selling point? Man, I don't want to release my campaign strategy just yet. To declare first, motherfucker. Now I'm gonna keep this brief because politics on a channel meant for gaming would be pretty fucking boring. Shit, I can sit here for hours and give you details of how I would fix things, but I'm gonna keep this brief not to bore people. First of all, I'm a true independent voter. I hate this idea of the two-party bullshit system we have in the US right now. I don't agree with either party. I don't vote for one party over the other because both parties are more interested in beating each other than getting results for the country, and I'm getting sick of this shit. And being independent, that would be my campaign selling point. I'm not a politician. I don't think like one, I don't act like one, and I have no problem telling a politician to go fuck themselves or go shove a screwdriver up their ass sideways for all I give a shit. I don't work for a fucking company or political interest group that feeds me money to be corrupt. My campaign would hinge on being the non-politician who cuts through all the bullshit in order to get results. My campaign hinges on compromise and making tough decisions intended to improve areas of this country that have fallen short for the past 50 fucking years. My campaign would be all about getting people to remove their worthless politician that they have now and put more people in office who are willing to compromise and work out deals that satisfy all parties. No one party has all the decisions, and I would never pretend that I have all the decisions. But the decisions I do make would always be about splitting the middle ground and finding a solution that's mutually agreeable to everyone. That's something our current politicians absolutely refuse to do. Question number 3, is Obamacare going to help or hurt this country? Man, fuck, more political shit. For those outside of the US who don't know what Obamacare is, it's the nickname for our national health care plan that was passed into law, giving every citizen the chance for insurance coverage. That's the basic definition of the law, and again, I'm going to keep this brief. But I will say this, we have over 300 million Americans, and before Obamacare, 47 million were uninsured and over 50 million had substandard coverage compared to other developed countries. That's almost 1/3 of our country that lacks adequate health care or has none at all. I don't care what people think about Obamacare. That's a scary number for a country that prides itself on being a world leader. 1/3 of our country with below average or nothing at all just isn't acceptable in today's age. I agree with the fact that our country needed a healthcare overhaul. I think it's important for the US to address the healthcare concerns we have in this country. But Obamacare right now is nothing short of a nightmare. In the short term, it's a rush project that doesn't seem to be fully thought out. The rollout with the websites were awful, promises were made by Obama that weren't kept, coverages were dropped, people are now having to pay astronomical rates depending on where they live. So needless to say, the initial rollout has issues. All of those issues stem from the process being rushed from day one and being stuck in a political tug-of-war from those two parties that, as I mentioned before, have no intention of working together and coming up with a compromise. Long term, it also has issues. The main one being that it allows insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies to drive the market on pricing. Basically, the law allows these two rip-off con artist industries to set the prices for people. So naturally, insurance companies are taking advantage of that. The law does have limits on how badly insurance companies can screw us over, but it doesn't fully protect people from getting financially screwed over. In the end, Obamacare has potential to offer up something this country desperately needs: affordable insurance. The problem is, in its current form, it's just not possible. With the way things are in the government right now, with the assholes from both parties, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, neither side wants to work with the other to sort this shit out. It needed to be modified and fixed from the beginning, and for it to work for everyone in this country, it has to be modified and fixed again. But again, these two assholes don't want to work with each other, and that's why we're stuck with the problems today, and why we're going to be stuck with these problems 10 years from now. Final question of this session. What is your most controversial opinion that you know people would disagree with? Now, I've already talked about the God one in 2 videos ago. But I want you guys to visualize the definition of what I'm about to describe to you. I'm thinking of a very small living thing that replicates and reproduces itself using its host's resources. The organism infects its host, poisons it to the point that one day, when the host dies, so will the organism. Now, how many of you guys have just guessed what I described was a virus? And if you guessed that, you would be correct. A virus is a small living organism that manages to infect human beings or any other animal and reproduces itself until they find a way to fight it or they succumb to it. Now, what if I just told you that definition I described wasn't just only about a virus? It also describes human beings. That's right, the definition I gave you is also a description of human beings in comparison to the Earth. Now, I want you guys to understand the similarities. In comparison to Earth, human beings are small. Same as a virus, as they're microscopic. Viruses require human cells to reproduce to continue the life of the species. Humans do the exact same thing. We rely on the resources of the Earth to survive each day. Viruses also infect their hosts, usually making them sick in the process. Think of any of the million viruses out there: HIV, the flu, norovirus, hepatitis. The only known medicine against these are antiviral agents, as antibiotics only work on bacteria. Viruses are only fought off by humans building a tolerance to them and having antibodies fight these infections. That is the only way to have a virus killed. Humans are killing the planet, from pollution to wars to destroying forests, destroying the oceans, killing animal life, sea life, overfishing, overhunting, urbanization, toxic chemicals, eroding natural resources, using fossil fuels. Humans are essentially a virus to the planet. In the same way a virus infects the host, we infect the planet with how we live. For all the achievements human beings have made in this world, no species affects the planet more than we do. We are the apex of the animal world, yet we have no problem destroying the very planet that gives us our resources to live in the first place. We pollute our water supplies, we exploit our food systems, and we fight with each other for these resources. Humans are nothing more than a virus to this planet. And how do we fight off viruses? Like I mentioned before, our body does it for us. Our body finds a way of killing off petulant viruses so that we can live to see another day. But in the event that we're not able to fend off a virus, we end up dying. Guess what? That virus dies too. The virus that needed us to survive ends up costing the host their life and will now die since it depleted its host of all its resources. What the fuck do you think will happen when we deplete the Earth of all its resources? Think about this for a second. If we create so much pollution that we can't breathe, or the sea levels rise, or we overfish the seas where there's no food, or poison the seas by dumping our garbage there, killing all marine life, poisoning our drinking supplies on the planet, what chance do we have? We run into the same problem that viruses run into. In order to live the way we want, we damage the host each and every time until the point where we actually kill it. Humans are the highest form of a virus. We are the most advanced and complex virus this Earth has to deal with. And the Earth is going to fight back eventually because we're causing it to. What happens when we poison the air enough so that we can't breathe? What happens when the ozone layers are depleted and direct sunlight rays are hitting our planet? What happens when weather temperatures rise enough where oceans rise and hurricanes and tornadoes and floods consume our cities and countries? We're doing this to ourselves. We're doing this to the planet and putting everyone in danger because we're the world's worst virus. Earth can't get rid of us fast enough, but eventually we're going to do that all on our own. We're basically killing ourselves off. Continuing down the path we are, Earth is not going to be able to sustain human life much longer. Which brings me back to the prior questions. My Gaming is Legal asked, what is the meaning of life? For humans, the only species capable of thinking about this topic, We're nothing more than a virus. That is it. That is the explanation of what is life. DJ Scribble's question was, what was the one thing you could cure or fix in this world right now? We're growing past the number of human beings the Earth can support at one time. Humans in developed countries live at the expense of humans in third world countries. We have disparity among developed nations compared to undeveloped nations. Humans are living longer, fighting off diseases that kill them, reproducing at faster rates than ever before, all which require resources that this planet is eventually running out of. The one thing I would want to fix is human overpopulation. The heart of the problems we have as viruses is that there are way too fucking many of us. The Earth is a feasible living space for probably about half the population we have now. We don't need 6 billion people, or 7 billion, or 10, or 20 billion, which we'll be getting to a whole lot quicker nowadays. We need less people. If I could fix one thing, I would kill off half the world's population. I know this sounds like some evil genius plan for like a James Bond villain movie or some shit, but it's the truth. The world is currently overpopulated, and it's only going to get worse as time goes along. You know, as far as who I eliminate, that's the hard part. I'm sure I could sit here and dissect the whole group that needs to go, some shit like that. That's going to take too fucking long. The easiest way, eliminate the useless humans on the planet. Those that can't offer up anything to society, whether it's because of old age or people that refuse to do anything with their lives and just loafed around. To the criminals who made nothing of themselves, there are plenty of ways to divide up who deserves to go and who deserves to stay. But that's not something that's going to be happening anytime soon, and I would certainly be the last person to solve that fucking list. But in any event, if I could cure one thing right now, the world needs less people, and it needs more time to replenish all the resources we have pissed away since the beginning of our existence. Humans are nothing more than a virus, depleting this planet of the exact life that it gives us. Anyways, after 4 long videos, this question and answer session has finally come to an end. I'm telling you right now, the next time I do this, I'm limiting everybody to one question. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And the very next video, the last video of the year, is going to be everyone's favorite top 10 hipfire commentaries of all time. You guys are going to be able to see that on New Year's Eve next Tuesday.